So I didn't actually plan on talking about this today, but I just recently had a very intense but luckily quick experience where I felt like I was getting sucked into this thing that I actually didn't want. So I want to talk about it today before I maybe forget some of the specifics. Now, I will be adding some examples of what I went through and experienced, but they might be slightly changed and perhaps not related to what I went through at all, because I don't want to make it too personal. And yeah, I want to make it like also general and applicable to anyone that is listening, but as well show how it could go down in real life. So what I experienced was like a very quick but super intense version of pretty much any kind of red flag that you could imagine. And I do want to preface this by saying that, of course, I am not a perfect victim, and there were decisions made that were not the best. And obviously, you might be listening to this and thinking, well, I would never even be in this situation because I wouldn't be so stupid to even go and see this person or do whatever I did or not do whatever I didn't do. So if that's you, if you can't relate, then don't worry about it. Just maybe don't listen to this one. And if you can relate, I just want to raise awareness and make sure that you know you're not alone and you're not weak or dumb for falling for these kind of things. It can happen to anyone, anytime, with anyone. So yeah, let's get into it. So I experienced a couple of different red flags and character traits, and I did notice them early on because luckily I am in a stage in my life where I feel quite stable and grounded, and I think a lot of the time I am in my rest and digest, so I can actually make objective decisions and clock it when something seems a little bit off, even if it is small things. So before I get started, I just want to make sure that we're understanding some of these terms. So something that will be coming up is coercion, and I did look up the definition of coercion, and it said it's the use of force to persuade someone to do something that they are unwilling to do. And another dictionary also said it's the use of express or implied threats of violence or other intimidating behavior that puts a person in immediate fear of the consequences in order to compel that person to act against his or her will. So basically they will make you feel scared or guilty or whatever. They will make you feel like a really negative emotion towards what you actually want, so then you change your mind basically. So that's coercion. And then synonyms for coercion are pressure, constraint, intimidation, violence, and compulsion. So just so we know, coercion, that's that. And then another one that I wanted to define was manipulation, because I think we use manipulation a lot in our everyday language, but in this case what is meant is really the action of influencing or controlling someone or something to your advantage. And synonyms, and often it's without that person knowing it or anyone knowing it really. So everyone thinks you're up for it, but actually you were manipulated into it. You didn't actually want this. It was just a controlling behavior. And synonyms would be like exploit or deceive. Deceive? Yes, deceive. So now that we're clear on that, I'm gonna get started on my story. Okay, so a couple of months ago, someone from the past that I knew from a couple of years ago had reached out to me wanting to meet up, because now that I am back, that I've moved back, I am closer to that person again. And that person lives at a very like touristy place, and I said, oh yeah, I might come and see you because I know this person and I've hung out with them before. So anyways, months go by and I end up deciding to go and visit that person. So I book a flight and everything, and even before I went, I noticed a couple of things in the text messages where I was like, this seems a little bit off. So overall, I was like, oh, this person is very like, it wasn't pushy yet. It was just like, oh, they really want to see me, which I thought was strange because it's been like 5 years. So, but anyways, I was like, okay, I'm going to remember that and we'll see. Because that's all you can really do, right? Like you just have to, I guess, wait and see if there's more things coming up until you can notice the pattern, because it could just be that they're a really bubbly person and they really just genuinely want to see me, right? So, okay, so I noticed that. And then there was one thing that happened, and unfortunately I'd already booked my flight by then. So I could have obviously still been like, no, I'm not coming. But I was like, okay, maybe it's not that big of a deal. It just depends. And it's actually funny that this exact example happened because it's like something that happened on Love Island, I think. And there, I don't think it was a big deal. So it's really funny that this happened at the same time. So what happened was that in the message, this person called me darling. And I really don't like nicknames, especially if we're not in this kind of, if we don't have this kind of relationship, you know, like if we're not romantically involved, just call me by my name. So I said that kindly. I was just like, oh, I'd really prefer you just say my name. And they were like, okay, I didn't mean it like that, but yeah. And and I was just like, yeah, I thought you didn't mean it like that, but still. So that was basically me setting a boundary. It's a really small one and also easy to just go by, right? Unless, of course, I did think in my brain, like if that's just their vocabulary, it's going to be really hard to keep track of who they're calling darling and who they aren't calling darling. But anyways, I think via text, like you realize like, oh, they told me to not do that. And then, so a couple of weeks go by, I've booked the flight, I'm like ready to go. And he calls me darling again in a text message. And so as I'm learning to stand on business, I decided to state my boundary again because I had already told him. So I was like, I said something like, hey, I really don't want you to use to call me darling. I really just want you to use my name because we said I'm coming over as a friend, and to me, even if it isn't to you, but to me, this makes it seem blurry. And that was it. And it was just like, okay, yeah, whatever. So that was the first two things that I noticed. There was a bit of a like pushy dynamic going on, and that boundary push as well. But again, I just had to, register it and then see what happens. Okay, so then I arrived there. Also, if I'm smiling, it's just because I feel uncomfortable, but I really do want to tell this story because I think it might help someone. Because, it's not always like black and white. It's not always like, oh, they've done the worst thing possible to me. Sometimes it's just these tiny little toxic behaviors that are adding up. And if you notice them early, like I did in this case, then you don't waste years of your life on a really toxic relationship, which, is the goal, right? Because we can't change the people. We can't make them all disappear. We can't make sure that everyone is always communicating and acting super healthy, but what we can do is how we respond and how fast we respond to it. So that's why I'm sharing this. Okay, so then I am on my flight. I had a double flight, so I had a layover, and then on my second flight I land, I turn on my data, and I see a message from him, and it was, I don't know how you would feel about this, but it was a screenshot of of my flight landing. Like it showed like how you can observe. I didn't even know you can do that, to be honest, but apparently you can look at the flight, like where it flew, and it has like this, why can't I speak? It has like the line of flight and then that it landed. And I was like, that's actually kind of strange, because why wouldn't you just say, oh, have you landed or something? But it was just a screenshot, like there was no message to it. And I was like, I know I landed, like I was on the plane. Like, you don't have to tell me that. And I was just like, okay, whatever. So, and he was at work anyways, so I just waited for my luggage, and then I went and dropped it at his, because I was staying with him, right? Like, he offered, because also it would have been super expensive. And again, see, this is where probably I should have just stuck with a hotel or something and just seen him for like, I don't know, for like a lunch or something, right? But he had, like, that was the thing, like, he invited me to come and see him. So I left my luggage at his outside, because obviously I don't have a key, right? So I left it outside near the door and went on about my day and started exploring stuff, which was nice. And then obviously at night, like, we met, which is a little bit awkward if you haven't seen someone for a couple of years, but that's fine, like, that's normal. So it's all still going okay. Now, his house was like very, very nice, like, it was very new, but there was like a lot of like construction-y stuff still going on. So like some of the lamps were just lamps hanging and stuff, and it's because he's like working on it or whatever. I don't want to give away too much. Anyways, so that was a little bit of an odd atmosphere, but I mean, overall the house was very nice. And I was like, okay, great, cool. We had already like discussed that I will be sleeping on the couch in that living room that you can close. I was like, okay, that's great. And then, so here's another red flag that I ignored, was that, well, I didn't ignore it, I did clock it. I actually am very proud of how I handled this whole situation. Like, I think I was like in it, like I was in the cloud for a bit, but then I was like, nah, this is not it, I need to get out. But yeah, so the first night he just asks again, like, where are you sleeping? And I thought that was a little bit odd, because I already said I will be sleeping on the couch. But I was like, okay, I'm sleeping on the couch, and I just stood by what I said. I'm sleeping on the couch. It's like, okay, got everything ready for me, and I was like, okay, great. And then I went to bed. So that was the first night. Oh no, I'm forgetting like the biggest thing. So that night we obviously had dinner, and we went to the beach to see the sunset, because it was a really nice day. So I went to the beach, and it's like very normal there. Like, almost every single beach there is like a nudist beach. So it is normal there, but to me it's not. So I had a bikini on, but he didn't, and that's fine. But still, once you see the pattern, it's like, I don't know about that. But yeah, so we went for a swim, and earlier that day, I, by myself, had already been to the beach, because I got there and I explored, right? And when I got to the beach that first time alone, I realized that there was like a couple of jellyfish. So I had gone in like halfway, and then I saw the jellyfish. And I love, like, I am mesmerized by jellyfish. I think they are the most beautiful, wonderful creatures ever. Like, they are so fascinating, and I want to get a tattoo of a jellyfish. But the thing is, I am also terrified of jellyfish. Like, I am the most scared of jellyfish. That's like the one animal that I just freak out, and I can't be in the water if there's jellyfish. And there is a reason for it, because I did have like a really scary incident when I was younger. And I even told him about this. I was like, oh, I saw jellyfish earlier. And he was like, oh, they're like not dangerous. And I was like, yeah, but I still don't like them. And for me, like, jellyfish, when they sting me, I still get rashes. Like, it doesn't matter what kind of jellyfish it is. It's just, and I ended up looking it up. It's because like your immune system is like weak, or like it's slow and stuff like that. So anyways, I was like, oh, okay. But we ran in, and it was really cool, because there was like bioluminescence and stuff. So I was very keen for that. Went for a swim, and then I felt like some jellyfish touching me, and I was like, no, I'm getting out. And he didn't really validate me in my pain and fear, which was also like, okay, because this is still like friendly basis, right? So I'm like, yeah, you don't really have to care about this, but also if I'm super terrified, then you should probably be like, okay, let's get out, and not like, oh, it doesn't matter, like, there's nothing to be scared of and stuff, because like, I know my body, right? Anyway, so we get out, and then yeah, I went to bed, slept on the couch and stuff. And even that first night already, he was like I was telling a story about a pretty like scary accident that I saw with someone on a motorcycle, and I was saying something like he wasn't wearing anything, and then he like had to make it like, because I was talking about like, like what he was wearing, like, I'm even worried to say it now. It's like, like no protection and stuff. And he just thought of it in like a different way. And I was like, that's actually not funny. So that was already the first night. And then the next day, he was like trying to like make like little advances. And it really annoys me because I really struggle with that. Like, I struggle to say no, and I'm trying so hard. And also, maybe some of you can relate to that. At some point, I don't even know what I want anymore because I get confused, because I'm like, am I signaling something else than what I'm thinking? So does that mean I am actually feeling something else? Like, am I actually interested in this person? Because I was like so certain that I'm not. And I know I'm not attracted to them, but something is like not adding up, because why are they still trying? Because have I not made it clear, or am I not clear? And then I start questioning myself. And then also another problem is like, I kind of like really feel what they feel. So I know that they're interested, and then all of a sudden I like internalize that, and I'm like, well, they're interested, so I'm I don't know, like I can't really like take them apart anymore, which is really hard. But I know that. So I know I'm struggling with that. Okay, I kind of got off track. So as the days go by, he just tries more and more things, like kind of like pushing my boundaries, seeing how far he can go, like physically and verbally, like just pushing it. So there was a lot of red flags in that sense. And then there was this point where I felt very clouded in my judgment, and I felt like I don't even know what I want anymore. Maybe I do want something, maybe I am interested. And mind you, this is all happening within like 2 or 3 days. Like, I was only there for 5, so it's actually crazy what it can do to you. And there was a lot of push and pull going on. Like, I was very closed off at the start. I just am like that. And then whenever I would open up, then he would shut down. And I think that is such a often like perceived trait in any toxic relationship, friendship kind of dynamic. It's always a push and pull, and you're never both pushing or pulling at the same time, so it's never balanced. And I think that's such a good way to identify something that isn't healthy. So yeah. And I'm not even talking about like physical stuff. I'm just talking about like if I would share like a story, or about like what I've done, like something I've done in the last 4 or 5 years, because mind you, we haven't seen each other for that long, then all of a sudden he would shut down and also never acknowledge anything I was saying. So after that second night, I was like very confused. I was like, what do I even want? Like, because obviously it feels nice to like be close to someone, like we're human, so closeness feels nice. And I felt like he wasn't like doing something that I said no to. He was just like finding these gray areas. And that's where it gets really tricky, because for example, like they might not like try to kiss you, but they might try to touch you like on your leg, and then perhaps a bit further up or something like that. I'm not saying this is what happened, but I'm just saying like they're pushing boundaries in these gray areas that make you confused. And that's really hard, because they don't just go and do like a completely wrong thing. It's just a little bit more, and then all of a sudden you're confused, because there's also a lot of like hormones and stuff at play with this, especially with this whole push-pull dynamic. Like there's so much going on, and you're not thinking straight because you're starting to get into this fight, flight, freeze mode. There's like oxytocin happening, like there's a lot happening. And then I also noticed, I was like, I'm just messing up my whole routines. Like I'm not I'm not giving my diary time anymore. Usually I write in my diary in the morning and in the evening. And obviously it's just been like 2 days, but still, that's not me. That's not what I do. And also, like, I wasn't meditating. I was always like, oh, I'll just do it in like the afternoon or something. Like, I was just pushing away my routines. And that's the things that ground you, right? So I didn't have an outlet anymore, or an inlet to ground myself. And I almost like couldn't, like, it was very hard for me to sit down and actually do these routines because my sympathetic nervous system was probably very activated. So I couldn't physically just ground myself and look at everything objectively. But then the third day I wake up and I finally go out on the porch and do like a really long yoga session and meditation, and I get back and then he's up, right? And I'm like, I just like tell him like, oh, I just had like the best morning. And the first thing he says is like, is it because it was without me? And I was just like, yes, I did this and this and this. And I told him what I did. And just no reaction, like there was nothing, like not a single word came out of his mouth. And for me, the cloud just disappeared. I was like, oh my God, I see through it all now. And I was like, this is crazy. What just happened in 2 days? Like, I was going through everything. And then I was like, okay, well, I'm going to do this today. And I went on about my day by myself. And just realized everything that happened, and that it was like, I was very manipulated. And I was obviously very angry, frustrated, and also scared, because like, I'm still like living with this dude. And luckily, like, I knew, I was like, I can always get out. Like, I already knew if something goes wrong, like, I can get a hotel, I can go home early or whatever. Like, it's fine. That's why you should always have a backup plan. But still, it was like kind of scary. And I was like, am I overreacting and stuff? Because that's what they do in your, like, with your brain. They just mess up your whole intuition, which is crazy. But I just snapped out of it, and I was so glad. I was like, oh, this really grounded me, and I was finally able to see through it all. I was like, I don't want this. Like, just let me be. So for the rest of my trip there, I was just doing everything by myself. I'd go to bed early, which I always do anyways, and he wouldn't even be home yet. So I basically like didn't even talk to him anymore, and I was like, oh, it is what it is. Yeah. And then the crazy thing is, so then the last night, so every night they had a concert at the beach, which I kind of knew, but I didn't know, because he didn't tell me anything social. Like, we didn't meet anyone, like no friends, nothing. He did want me to come on a fishing trip with his dad though, but I was like, oh my God, like, he's moving so fast. Like, what is going on? This is crazy. And I obviously said no. Like, I was like, no, definitely not. But like, just always pushing it. And anyway, so there was this concert, and I was like, okay, it's the last night, I'm gonna go to this concert. It's like from like 7:30 to 9 or something like that. I was like, okay, I'm gonna go to this concert. It's just like a little like setup, like, what's it called, with the stairs where you can sit on, and then a little band concert thing playing. So I went there alone, which, you know, is fine. And it was actually really fun. And I met this like older man that is also living in Switzerland now. Well, now he's moved to Italy, but it was like actually really, really fun. And he was very nice. So that was cool. And there was also an older lady next to me, and she was fun too, because we were like dancing and stuff. So that was great. But he, mind you, he didn't know I went to that concert. I barely shared anything at this point, and I barely talked to him. I always made sure I was like in bed, door closed and locked and whatever, because I was kind of scared. Like, I had this very like scary feeling in my chest. So then on my last day, he was meant to be at work when I left, and I was like, oh, that's good, because I can just, you know, chill. Like, I can breathe, I can pack everything and stuff and wander around the house by myself without having to like worry that he's gonna be weird and make me feel awkward. And then he just comes around exactly when I'm there, and I was there like way too early, like it wasn't time for my flight yet, but he comes around and he's like, oh well, because I don't want to say too much, but he got out of work for a little bit, and he was like, oh, they don't know when I will be back anyway, so I thought I'd come around because I thought you might be here. And I was like, that is creepy. And I was like, okay. So it was very like controlling. Like one last time, he's like, I know you're here. Like I can take up your time. Anyway, I just didn't give in. I was kind of like, what's it, grey rocking? I don't know, whatever. And I was like, okay, all right, bye, see ya. And then he left, and then I ended up leaving, took the flight home. I was like, oh, okay. I was reflecting on everything. I was like, this is crazy. I'm so glad I snapped out of this real quick. Because if it was up to him, I'd probably be like living there now, getting married in a month. I don't know. Like, this is crazy. Oh my God. Okay. And then like a day goes by or something, and this whole trip he was like, I'm too busy, because he has like 3 jobs or whatever. Like he's always too busy for everything except for when it was like a way to get closer to me, and like especially physically. So at night he would have time, but for everything else, like anything else, even things that were planned, those never ended up happening, because like I'm too busy, I'm so tired, I'm so exhausted, it's been too much, blah blah blah. And then like a day goes by and he posts a story, and I just like kind of swipe on it, but like not in a way that you can see that I can see it. I think that's how it works on Instagram. And he just posted like a picture or a video, I don't know, of him at this concert. And well, he wasn't on it, but he took like a picture of that concert thing, like venue. And I don't know, maybe I'm like, no, but I believe myself, I believe my intuition. It seemed like he was trying to make it look like it was like this huge festival like vibe, like a proper thing happening, when actually it's just like this daily little concert at the beach that they always do in that town. And I thought that was like that last dig at me, and like way to make me like jealous or regret like how I left things or whatever. But he never did anything when I was there. I don't know. It's just, yeah. So that was the experience. And now I'm back, and I was like, oh, I need to like reset, because that was a lot. But I'm very proud of how I handled it. And yes, I should definitely make better choices next time, and not even go to things like that. But it's sad, right? It's so sad that we always have to consider these things and think about these things. Yeah, because I feel like there's just no way around it. Like you just have to always make sure you're being safe, because these things can get scary real quick. Okay, so that was the whole story. I do want to talk about some things. Hold on, I'm gonna start a new video.